Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back or welcome to my podcast, Rewire to Inspire. I am your host, Jessie Brown, and you guessed it, I am so excited for today's episode. Today's episode number 214. If you missed my last episode, number 213, we talked about how to push yourself when you don't want to do something. I am definitely still kind of feeling that energy a little bit today. I am still tired from the weekend and from a long work day today. And there was 100% parts of me before recording this episode that needed to go back to the reminders of that episode that then gave me the push that I needed to jump on the microphone. And so if you haven't checked out that episode, I definitely encourage you to gain some strategies and techniques that I like to utilize during times when I don't want to do things, because let's just be honest, there's times when we just don't want to do stuff, and that's cool. But being able to push ourselves is really important. Today's episode, I almost recorded today's episode last night at 10:30 when I closed my eyes to go to sleep. I don't know about you, but I get my best ideas in the shower or at anytime I'm just in water in general, but in the shower and when I am in that kind of phase one of going to sleep, when I'm resting, no distractions, I get my best ideas. And as I was laying there last night before bed, one thing that I always like to do is tell myself things that I'm grateful for throughout the day. So I like to kind of go through my day in my mind's eye and just replay what had happened, maybe some things that stuck out to me, some things that were great and I'm grateful for, maybe some challenges and things that I want to work on, improvements, what I want to leave in that day and what I maybe want to bring into tomorrow. And I really just take a couple minutes as I'm falling asleep to practice some mindfulness and to just kind of go through and process all the things that happened. And as I was sitting there, I just kept, my consciousness kept coming back to the importance of gratitude and just being thankful and being aware of what you have and counting your blessings. And I know these things sound very superficial and very repetitive in life, to practice gratitude, to be thankful, etc. But are we actually conscious of what happens when we're not grateful? And we begin to take things for granted. And so today's episode, I want to talk to you guys about change your verbiage, change your life. I do a keynote that is all about changing the way we talk to ourselves inside of our mind. Because that internal dialogue truly does shape the quality of your life. It dictates how you show up. It dictates how you view yourself. It dictates your relationship with yourself and with others and with your work and with your passions, creations, etc. Everything starts with those conversations that we have in here. Because if the conversations that are happening in our mind are deconstructive, are demotivating, are harmful, they're going to manipulate our external actions and how we show up. If we're telling ourselves an internal story that we're incapable, we could never do something, we're stressing about how we could ever achieve a certain thing, that is how we will begin to show up, because the stories we tell ourselves become our reality. Because if we have told ourselves a narrative and we believe that and we buy that and that becomes our truth, that is the way in which we are going to live our life. And so my purpose during my presentation is really to iterate the importance of noticing those things we tell ourselves. And then the second step, once we notice it, would be to change it. And I've kind of taken a step back on my life in the last couple days of just recognizing that I feel like I've been on like a loop, which I shared a little bit with you guys last week, but I just feel like I'm on this constant loop. And after talking to some folks today, and even just really analyzing people in my life over the last several months, I've noticed this similarity among all of us, where it feels like time is flying by, it feels like everything is changing, but nothing's changed. Time is just disappearing. We're all stressed. We're all overwhelmed. We're just almost like floating in clouds into the unknown. We're wandering. We're just hoping that we stumble upon happiness. We're hoping we stumble upon success. We stumble upon our dream life, our dream partner, our dream job, whatever. And really what I think it is we've just become so disconnected from ourselves. And such a big part of that is that internal dialogue happening. It's also externally technology and, all those external things that stress us out, money and food and resources and our jobs and whatever. But I think a lot of it in our control has become disconnected. And that brings me back to the gratitude, the stories we tell ourselves to ourselves about ourselves. And as I do, I was further reflecting and I was thinking of a time in my life, because I always like to compare. I was like, when did I feel my best self? What's a time in my life where I felt the most aligned, the most on point, the most Jessie? When have I felt the most me? And I kept coming back to like 2021-ish. So like shortly after the pandemic, it was a time where I just decided to choose me. Every day when I woke up, I had rediscovered spirituality and I was really focusing on eating good foods and moving my body. I was practicing yoga every day, sometimes twice, 3 times a day. I had gotten into non-toxic living lifestyle and, I got involved with Young Living and I was using oils, dabbling in like the woo world, building a community of folks that also enjoyed the moon and doing moon rituals, and I started to just really find things that made my heart beat joy. And as I was circling back, I'm like, okay, hold that for a minute. And I want you to reflect for yourself in this moment. What is a time in your life that you can pinpoint that you have felt like your best self? You felt your most grounded in your body, content, happy, in flow, aligned, whatever. When's a time in your life where you've felt like the most you? And it's okay if you can't think of it right away. This took me a little bit of time to kind of process for myself. But then once I finally landed on it, I was like, oh yeah, that was that time. And I could feel myself energetically. My shoulders went back. I could feel myself smiling. I was thinking of that version of me. And I was like extra in love with that version of me because I was like, she was just so happy and carefree and was choosing her. And then I kind of jumped ahead to me now. And I was like, what's the difference? What is the biggest difference? The biggest difference between that version of me and this version of me is stress. I want us to just validate for a second how stressed out so many of us are. I feel like my window of tolerance is like next to nothing. The time that I spend in my body consciously is next to nothing. I'm just constantly seeking the next thing, trying to find the next thing, worrying. And I kept coming back to, I'm aware that I've spent a lot of my life in fight or flight, but I wasn't aware that I had jumped back to it. And looking at our society as a whole, it's kind of in like freak out mode right now, right? Everywhere you look, people are talking about taxes going up and an increase in food and how expensive everything is and all the negativity in the world and how everyone does them wrong and how their favorite store just shut down and their best friend won't talk to them anymore. And all of us, it's very contagious. Negative energy is very contagious and it affects all of us. And I'm like, what if we're all just in that state of protection, in overdrive, in overwhelm? And the more that each one of us becomes disconnected, the more that this ripple expedites and it increases and it gets heavier. It's so rare now for me to have a conversation with someone where I leave it feeling more energized than when I went into it. It often takes a part of me. It depletes me in some ways because I'm often like overpouring into other people. And I don't know what the answer is, and I can't fix our society. But what I do want to do, and my purpose of this episode, is to validate that. To validate that, like, maybe we are all just a little more stressed right now. I know that we will look back at this time in a decade and we're going to be like, holy shit. Those that got through, even if it felt like you were drowning the whole time, if you got through, good for you. If you're still here, the fact that you're listening to this episode, just validate this for yourself for a second. You're listening to a self-improvement podcast. That tells me that there's a part of you in there that's just like holding on for dear life. Please help. Please give me the answers. Please support me. Here's what I want you to know. I'm here to be a motivator and a guide in your life and someone that you can listen to twice a week to give you hope. But the answers lie beneath yourself. They lie within you. And I truly believe that it comes down to noticing what you're telling yourself and practicing gratitude. I do truly believe that both of those two things can cure so much stress. My partner came to me yesterday, and I won't go into details because I want to, maintain the confidentiality of the folks involved in this, but basically just said that there was somebody our age that expressed that they were very, very sick. And I don't know this person, I don't know their story, but that's all I needed to hear, really, to just be like, wow, I take so much for granted. And this is the story that was playing in my head last night. I was like, and this sounds horrendous, and this is going to sound depressing for a second, but my hope is that we can have this depressing moment for a second so that it can bring about a spark of gratitude. I was like, imagine if I lost my ability to walk. Just imagine that for a second. And if any of these already resonate with you and are already a part of your life, in and of itself, I'm so sorry that you're dealing with that. I can't even imagine. But I just want to spitball some scenarios for a second to really, and I want you to really hold this in your heart. Imagine you lost your ability to walk. What about to talk? To see? If you're on no medications right now, imagine your day is just start to finish on medication. Imagine you have to go to the hospital every single day or every other day to give blood or to receive treatment. Imagine living in such deep poverty that you don't know when the next meal is you're going to get. Not being able to reach for clean clothes because you don't own a home or a space to put them, or even clean clothes to put on your back. I look around my room and I'm like, it's an abundance. And yet I'm like, I don't love my room. It's like, look at all these things around me. Look at the absurd amount of blessings that I have around me right now in this moment. To just take a second and be like, what if all that was gone? Then would I be grateful for it? As much as these things are really that's depressing to talk about, I think it's the reality of not taking anything for granted for even a second. I was at the gym yesterday and I took a moment where I was just like, I get to be here. Because before I went, again, that verbiage piece, I was like, I have to go to the gym before I go home. Ugh, poor me. Ugh, I have to look after my health and look after my body. Ugh, I have to go put on another outfit, a workout outfit, and my new sneakers and comfy socks and my AirPods with my iPhone. Oh, I have to do that. It's like I was disgusted with myself for a second. And I'm not saying any of these things to project that onto you guys, but I was just like, I'm not okay with taking every single one of these little things for granted. And I was on the leg press and I had my music blasting, which I do. I play my music probably too loud, definitely too loud. And I was just like, I have legs that get to push this weight out and back, and I get to build strength in my legs, and I get to work on my body and my health. And changing the I have to I get to has been a game changer for me. That's something that we say as a joke on our team, where we did this activity 2 years ago and we changed the verbiage of things that we were telling ourselves. And the biggest one is, I have to do this to I get to do this. I get to go to work every day. I get to speak on my podcast. I get to build my business. I get to drive to work. I get to go to the gym. I get to make myself supper tonight. It's so easy when we get so micro-focused on all the itty-bitty things in our life that, can be overwhelming. And to be honest, sometimes, they just suck. And just saying, this sucks, but it doesn't mean that I'm not grateful for it. whenever I'm at my partner's house and we're about to eat supper, we always sing like a little song that I had learned at camp when I was younger, and I think he learned it at camp as well, but it's basically just like thanking for the food in front of us, and it's like kind of become a joke, but I'm also like, yeah, like I'm grateful that we get to eat this meal that's in front of us, and it just makes me so much more appreciative when I'm eating it. So I really just wanted to give something that is common knowledge just kind of the front of the room attention that it deserves. Because I know you're struggling, and I know life's hard, and I know it feels defeating and a loss of hope and so much overwhelm. And I know that it doesn't feel like there's light at the end of the tunnel. But if you can start by just noticing the conversations you're telling yourself, if you're like, ugh, I have to do this, just taking a second to catch yourself and being like, do I get to do this? What's the alternative? What would be the other options? Is it really as bad as I think it is? These are the moments where comparison, yes, can be a very negative thing, but I do think comparing and sometimes in life is really constructive, because it shows us the duality of what we have versus maybe what we desire or maybe what we don't desire. We're so good at being like, oh, I would love to have that Lamborghini and that mansion and the boat and the whatever. But it's like rarely do we go in reverse and we're like, oh, I would really hate to live on the streets and not have anything to eat. It's like, why don't we go there for a second and humble ourselves? So I know that I've been kind of stuck in that loop. And one thing that I've been trying to do to just kind of level set my stress a little bit is really, it's very tangible. It's noticing my thoughts. It's trying to rewire and practice gratitude. It's been also monitoring my sleep. The last 3 nights I've been going to bed at 10:30 and waking up at 7:30. And it's made so much of a difference just getting a good night's sleep and resting my mind. And it's practicing gratitude before I go to bed and when I wake up in the morning. And yes, in between is still hard, and it can still be a struggle, and it has still been a struggle. And I really just hit the reset button of trying to find myself again in the last couple of days. And I know that this is going to be a never-ending journey. But I also have hope. And whenever I have hope, I always want to share that with you guys, because a couple days ago I didn't have any hope. I felt lost. I didn't really know where my life was going. Everybody I turned to and looked to and talked to was feeling the same way, and I'm like, well, what's the point? And I got just like this rush of a reality hit yesterday, and I was like, you know what? I'm getting in my own way. I'm the one in control of my life. Nobody is going to come save me from my miserable thoughts. It's up to me to put one foot in front of the other. It's up to me to take action. And the same is true for you. I wish I could give you all the answers. I wish I could wave a magic wand and take away all your problems. But that's the beautiful part of life, is riding that journey. It is honoring yourself when there's a phase of your life that is great and a phase of your life that isn't. And if you are in a phase of your life right now where things are going great, I'm so happy for you, and you are so deserving of that. And if you are in a phase of your life where maybe things are a little rocky right now, what can you learn from this time, knowing that it will pass and it will get better with time? But you can sit and honor and validate yourself right now in this moment, no matter where you are. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. I'm so happy that you're here. And again, if you're here, that's already so huge. You are choosing to invest your time in an area that is hopefully improving your life. And that to me is pretty badass, and I'm proud of you, and I'm so happy you're here, and I hope you continue to tune in twice a week, because I will be here to support you along this insanely messy journey that we call life, and I am right there with you, so you are never alone, and I have so much love for each and every one of you that are tuning in. So thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. I mentioned on Tuesday that it was spring. Today's actually the first day of spring, Wednesday when I'm recording, so apologize about my little mix-up, although here I am maybe wrong again. Maybe it was Tuesday night. regardless, tomato, tomato. It is now spring. Happy spring. The sun is shining right now. The sun is up until like 7:30, which is actually just like the best. So I hope your guys' spring is off to an amazing start, and I'm so excited to chat with you all next week. Bye, you guys.